And welcome back to an exclusive interview on The Beat. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get right into what the Intelligence Committee is doing in the judiciary. What do you see as the case for impeachment? What happens next?
Yeah, I mean, so the Intelligence Committee is about to issue their report tomorrow, and we will have an opportunity to vote on it and send it to judiciary. We will hear from constitutional scholars and have an opportunity to really lay out for the public what kind of articles of impeachment could be drawn up in this process. And, you know, you have to remember, right, this began in a way for us to give the public the opportunity to understand and move along in this process with us. And as we go into the second phase, they will get to do that more.
You have previously advocated for impeaching this president on other grounds before the Ukraine bribery plot was exposed. What is your current thinking on how narrow or broad to advance impeachment? I'll mention, as you know, your colleagues have had some of this debate. We've seen discussion of Ukraine, obstruction of justice. Do you include Mueller or not? The issues around corruption and emoluments, as well as the question of whether the president's exposed bigotry and racism, including, we should mention, against you, among others, should be included. Do you have a view on how broad the articles should be?
Yeah, I've said for a really long time that it wasn't going to be, if the president was getting impeached, it was going to be when. I believed that there were multiple reasons for us to move impeachment on this president. And right now, I think it is really important for us to have it be narrowed because this is a very concise case. Regardless of the shenanigans that the Republicans are engaged in at the moment, the public can clearly understand where the violations are and can follow this case, as you have now done in the previous segment. Case after case have shown similar cases that are that give us precedent. The public gets to do that and gets to understand why this particular case with Ukraine is a clear example of how this lawless president has taken advantage of the public trust, has violated his oath of office, and why it's important for us to impeach him so that we can restore the integrity and the honesty and the trust of the presidency.
So to make sure I'm just hearing you right on that, you would say on, say, the bigotry that you've discussed before, the Mueller stuff, you'd say leave that out.
I think there are other opportunities, but right now we have a clear case, and I believe that we should follow this one. You know, I've used examples where you've had mob bosses who have committed atrocity after atrocity, have violated our criminal codes of conduct, and we got them on one narrow case, but they get to serve time. And what's important right now is that for this particular president that we know has many cases where we could impeach him on, that we focus on the one that the public is paying attention to and impeach him on that.
Yeah. Congresswoman, it sounds like you are artfully making a comparison on the legal precedent to this president and Al Capone. Without technically saying Al Capone. We're talking about this stuff, but I also obviously want to hear a little bit about your agenda. It's your first time on The Beat. We often talk policy with folks. You've been working on something relating to both public housing and environmentalism. I'm going to just read a little bit from a rough summary. $1 trillion, which is what the 2009 stimulus bill had to keep the U.S. economy from sliding into depression. When you think about that adjusted for inflation, and this would be for green public housing. Explain this idea.
So we have a housing crisis. There is so many Americans who are either homeless or faced with housing insecurity, especially right now as we look at the cold weather. I represent one of the coldest states, and last night, on a given night, 10,000 Minnesotans were homeless. And of that, 6,000 were young people. We have children who are showing up every single day to our schools faced with homelessness or housing insecurity. So this is an issue that faces every single American, regardless of what corner of our country they are in. And it's about time for us to engage and make sure that we are solving this crisis. We know that the private market isn't enough to deal with the problem. And so what we are proposing is to inject and guarantee and fulfill the Homes for All guarantee that is going to make sure that every American has an opportunity to be housed. So we're going to create public housing, we're going to create affordable housing, and we are going to make sure that it is built to the highest environmental standards, that there are no American that is going to be discriminated on the basis of sex, of gender, of immigration status, or their criminal record. We're going to make sure that it's got wraparound services for people who have faced chronic homelessness or things like health problems and other things. We're also going to make sure that there is money put in a fund to deal with the problem of gentrification and displacement that many Americans are faced with today.
Well, you just mentioned environmentalism, housing insecurity, discrimination against people who've been incarcerated, and out homelessness, which are all such important issues in the country. So it's interesting to hear some of the other work that's going on in Congress.
This is our opportunity, really, to create a vision of what our 21st century housing should look like. And there is so much buzz, so much excitement in my home state and across the country for this bill. And it's one of the most substantial policy pieces of the Green New Deal. And so we're really excited to have had the opportunity for 9 months to work with grassroots champions on housing to get this bill out there.
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting, important issue, and I'm glad to get you on the beat. I hope you'll come back. We can talk about this and other policies. Congresswoman Omar, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.